In studio, we've got Mr. Bruce Retief, who's a filmmaker. Excuse me, who's a filmmaker, music producer. He's a father, he's a husband, and a Christian. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thanks. And you?
We are okay. Just a moment. I want to make sure that everything is bashash. Everything is on point. So, are you well?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
That's the first time you've ever called me sir.
Um, there's a reason for that. I didn't want to be all, friendly on the show. We have to keep it professional with every guest, no matter how we know them in our private life,
I mean, it's too late now.
Yeah, so you are Sir Bruce Retief, officially.
I accept.
Yeah, we're talking films today, music, and more. I understand that you lived in Cape Town. You were born in Cape Town, and moved a few years ago. I don't know if 10 years is a few years. To Hermanus.
Correct.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
Was it in pursuit of the music? Did you want some quietness or to be able to, work in private? Because I see most people prefer to come to Hermanus for, some peace and quiet. Was it for that reason?
Yeah, Hermanus is a lovely place to raise your family.
All right.
Yeah.
Whenever I go back to Cape Town, more and more over the last 10 years, it's got busier and busier. And sometimes in the middle of the day, there's traffic jams for no reason, in Cape Town. So I don't miss that. And we really have enjoyed the peace and quiet and lifestyle here.
We did. I think the place has become bigger.
Oh no, it has, and it's still getting bigger.
Yeah. If you think of where we live in Ziyakhipha, Ziyakhipha is now bigger than it was years ago.
Yeah, Hermanus is growing exponentially.
Yeah.
And now there are traffic jams here too.
Yes.
On the way to work in the morning.
Mm.
But still nothing like Cape Town.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Charlotte, do you want us to shoot straight into the movie stuff? Because here we are not just talking to anybody. We're talking about an award-winning filmmaker. Hey.
Yeah.
There's a current film that's on Showmax. Remember when we were talking to Sandy Lendevu? He mentioned that he worked with Bruce as well in his
Time.
His projects. And we also touched on the film, but we're not going to mention it now. I would like us to talk about other films before that one that's on Showmax.
Now, I want to do it like this. Before we start talking about the films and all these wonderful things that he's done, I just want to know why filming? Like, why movies? What was that one epiphany that you had one day where you realized, like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah, look, it wasn't like that. It wasn't an epiphany. It was more like something that I grew into. And we should probably start with music because that's where I first began as a musician and a composer.
Oh.
Yeah, so I done a lot of sort of smaller projects around with friends and with people that I knew that were in production.
Yeah.
And then my first big project was in 2009 and 10 when I composed the music for an animated film called Zambezia, which came out in 2011. And that was a big budget film. It was the first time I was recording an orchestra. We recorded overseas.
Whoa, I was about to ask, where was all of this recorded?
It was very prestigious and it was very exciting. So we recorded in LA. And then we took that recording and we mixed it. We did the final mix of the film, the sound mix with the music and the sound effects and the dialogue and all that. We did it at a place called Skywalker Ranch, which is in San Francisco, and that was actually started by the whole George Lucas, who did the whole Star Wars franchise.
Wow!
So, and he actually popped in while we were there. It was so it was a very surreal experience. Working with the best of the best. You walk into Skywalker Ranch.
Yeah.
You're already blown away just because you're in San Francisco or you're there. And then you walk into Skywalker Ranch and there's 4 Academy Awards in the reception
walking
area,
in as well.
like showing the work that they've done in the past. They've won Academy Awards for their sound design because they do sound. That's what they do. There's sound, post-production sound.
And all of this, of course, it's your first time, like your first break.
It's my first time. I mean, most people in South Africa would just do local movies and mix it here, but I got to go there, so it was a real blessing and a privilege. And to hear my music being played by the Hollywood Symphonic Orchestra, I spoke to one of the musicians in the orchestra, and she had played on Jurassic Park. She had played on the soundtrack for Jurassic Park, and she was playing on my movie. So it was very humbling and very exciting at the same time.
And surreal, I suppose. And what kind of like music are we talking about? Is it just instrumental?
When I do a film score, it's called a score. So that's the background music for a movie.
Oh.
So if you picture, like maybe it's a movie about cowboys galloping on their horses, and then there's like a orchestral soundtrack while they're running across the plains. And it gives the audience a feeling of being lifted.
Yes.
Or if you're watching a scary movie and you've got like the the scary sounds. That's all what composers do. And so it's not actually songs. There are some songs. Sometimes you write songs which have got words and a singer.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's just music. And you've got to create emotion with that music.
And like when did it start where you like realized that you were good at composing? Or did you like maybe have like some equipment and you're like, let me just try this out? Or was it like
It's a good question. I mean, I always played the piano and the keyboards growing up.
Okay.
And then I think my very first project was someone just contacted me and said, hey, I've got somebody that is doing something for National Geographic, but they haven't got a composer. Can you please step in? And I had like a keyboard set up. I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. And I did it, and they were happy. So,
wow.
So that was probably my first step into it. It wasn't even really planned. Yeah. But if you think about the power of music, it's people don't often realize how powerful music is in a film. And filmmakers that know what they're talking about would actually say that the music or the sound is like 50% of the experience.
Oh yeah, I think if there wasn't any background music or background noises in scary movies, I could literally watch it with a straight face.
Exactly.
But I can't because you're always waiting for the ta-dong, music to drop.
And also, if there's a sad scene,
oh yes,
the violins are playing, you want to cry.
Yeah.
Without the violins, if you put like a guitar in there or a comedy music, you would be laughing. So what happens is the music actually tells the audience or dictates to them what they should feel, and we actually pay to be manipulated like that.
Yeah.
So that's what is actually happening. You're being not only the music, but that's a big part of it is the music.
Oh, definitely. It's like when I'm feeling sad, like I want that song that makes me sadder.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said it yourself, because I was sitting here and I'm like, how do I ask him or how do I say this? Because you control how we feel when we're watching movies. I'm glad that you said it yourself, that you are in charge of manipulating how we feel. It's just like when you're watching, and you talked about horror movies, scary movies.
Yes.
Also when you're watching romantic movies, how you would feel so much like part of the movie. The characters.
In fact, we'll criticize the whole movie if it doesn't move us the way it's supposed to.
Yes.
So the music's got to be on point. So you do a pretty important job out there.
And what's interesting about the music in a movie is that it's actually a secret weapon, because when you're watching a movie, you're not aware of the music.
True.
Only if someone says to you, "Hey, listen to that."
To
music,
the song,
then you go,
That's
"Oh yeah."
correct.
But if you're watching, you focus on what you're seeing.
Yeah.
But the music is coming in without you realizing it, and it's affecting your brain, telling you how to feel.
Psychological.
So if you have, for example, if there's a scene where a man is walking down a street, okay, now that's a neutral thing. Like a man walking down a street could be anything. Okay?
Yeah.
He could be going to murder someone, or he could have just found out the best news of his life, or he could just be thinking about what work. There's so many things he could be doing while walking down the street. So the music comes in to tell you what he's doing, or what the feeling is that you should be feeling while watching him. So if he's walking down the street and you play funny comedy music, then you're going to be expecting him to trip or like something funny to happen.
Yeah, and what's funny is that I'm literally like I'm literally picturing it in my head. We're so excited. We even spoke at the same time. But like as you like describing the whole scene, like I can already see it play because I used to watch a show called You.
Yeah.
And it's a bit creepy.
About the guy who's stalking women.
Yeah.
I've seen one episode of that, one series of that.
Yeah. So I just like think along those lines that when it is gonna be like there's always like didum.
Yeah.
You know, so it does make.
It does. And if you play like sad music, then he's walking down the road, then you probably think that something bad has just happened to him, or he's thinking about a loved one that he's lost or something. So
and that happens like almost automatically.
Yes. So it's a big job. It's a very big job, an important job.
Not only the music, do you also add I understand that you also add like sound. Sometimes you have to enhance if, let's say, like for instance, somebody's walking. I forget what they call it, but you'd have to make sure that you've got sounds that depicts the footsteps. Or for instance, a message comes in that you have to make sure that the sound of the text is heard, is loud and clear.
Yeah, so that's called Foley.
Right.
Foley is the art of creating sounds in a movie that are not picked up by the camera or that are not there.
Yeah.
So for example, what could happen is, so for example, you're shooting a scene out at sea, right? And on the day, the wind was blowing and the microphones were getting wet. So there's no sound. You come back and you put your footage on the computer and there's no sound, or the sound's too bad to use in the movie, right? Then the Foley person will come and they'll put in a sound of an ocean and they'll put in the sound of seagulls. Yeah. And if someone is rowing a boat in the water, for example, then they'll put in those sounds of the splashing as the oars hit the water. So it's an art. It's something that people do. It's somebody that is dedicated to that art will do that for a movie.
Foley.
Yeah.
I've actually watched some videos on YouTube on this, and I found out that what sounds like footsteps in a movie, may not necessarily they may not have used shoes to make that sound. They may have used something else. So
it's sometimes even musical instruments. I think I've also seen something similar. The guy had like headphones on, and they were like beating random things, you know.
So if you look at a Foley artist studio, it looks like a junkyard because there's just a pile of junk there. But they know
treasure. It's treasure.
They know what each sound makes, and they'll take some obscure item and go like, okay, like I've seen someone. There was an advert being done with the Rubik's cube. You know those cubes that you with the different colors on that you move around, and the person was switching the cube, but there was no sound. So they took those salt. The salt grinders, and the pepper grinder. I was grinding that, and it sounded like the Rubik's cube. You know?
Wow, that's
actually, and also I watched the making of Jurassic Park. You know, the original Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
With the dinosaurs, and there's a scene where there's an egg that's hatching, and the dinosaur's coming out, and you hear the cracking of the eggshell.
Yeah. Yes.
And then I watched them how they did the Foley on that, and it was an ice cream cone. And they were cracking an ice cream cone right next to the microphone, and then it sounded like an egg, you know. So it's a very interesting art, and I don't really I do a bit of that, and sometimes I do it if I need to, if I'm the only editor or producer on something like then will put Foley in, but that's not my main field, you know.
Like you said, like almost every little bit has someone who has like expertise on that particular thing.
Yeah, for the best results, you should have somebody that's got an expertise in each area.
Oh, it's wild to think how many people are actually involved.
Well, that's why it's so expensive to make a film. Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at the credits when the movie's done.
Oh yeah.
You see a whole long list.
Forever,
yeah.
The thing though about Foley these days is that there are vast sound libraries now. So
they record them and save.
For a lot of sounds, you don't have to go and record them anymore. You can now go and download them, or if you have a library.
So
you can just drag in like a wind, which lasts for 3 minutes, and you can drag it into your project and then just adjust the volume, and then there's your wind.
Sure.
Or you can have, there's websites where you can subscribe, and they've got every kind of sound you can think of on the website. You just drag it in, and you don't need to record
anymore.
Yeah, interesting.
I do have. If you want me to tell you a story about Foley, about how it started,
Yes.
would you be interested in something like that?
Yes.
I don't want to take up the time.
Why
No.
not? Go ahead.
It's an interesting story because the very first Foley artist in Hollywood, or the first famous one, was
Yeah.
named John Foley.
Oh.
That's where the word
That's
that's where the word comes from. It's
Yeah.
named after him actually because he was so good. And what happened was in those days, remember in those days everything was filmed on film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and once it's filmed, that's it. You can't do anything. You can't change
You
the film
can't
much.
edit.
Yeah, you can't like nowadays you can just cut and paste.
Yeah.
In those days you have to be very careful. And what he would do is he would have a whole stage, like picture a stage in the auditorium or something, with all of his devices on there for creating sound. And he would also have different kind of surfaces like concrete
Yeah.
and wood, so that if somebody's walking, he can walk on those surfaces. And then the movie would play behind him, and then he would watch the movie. And as there's a sound, and they're recording him with microphones, and it's linked to the film, so that as somebody puts down a coffee cup, he puts down a coffee cup and records the sound
Gee.
in real time.
In real time.
Yeah. And if he made a mistake, he'd have to start again, and do everything again.
Wow.
And then he would. They could stop. They could stop the film, and then he'll put on high heel shoes.
Yeah.
And then if there's a lady walking down the road, then he'll walk as she's walking down the concrete, part of the stage.
Yeah.
And so it was a performance. It was a real performance. And then what they'll do is they'll take that film that he recorded the sound onto, and then send it away for 2 weeks to be developed.
Yeah.
And then it comes back. Only then can he see if it all works.
Yo.
Jeez.
Yeah. So it was a real art form. And,
feel like-
he became like the king of Foley, which
Huh.
is why they call it Foley. 'Cause it's
Foley crawled so every other Foley artist could fly basically.
Yeah.
It all started.
exactly.
Phew.
Anyway,
Yeah, we always learn. I mean, it's part of the reason why we have these conversations. We get to grow, and our audience as well.
Yeah.
We get feedback that they are grateful
And like
for the people that we bring. I mean, think about that. One would have to go to a film school, I guess, to learn things like just the part the part of the conversation we've just had now.
well, I
yeah.
didn't go to film school, but yeah,
Yeah.
might help.
Yeah, that much information is not that easy to find unless you know what you are looking for if you're going to research. The fact that you know so much that goes into making a movie, doesn't that affect how you watch movies?
It does, and
naturally.
and it can actually decrease your enjoyment if you're watching a movie which isn't well made. And you might notice things that other people wouldn't notice, and then they annoy you. You get annoyed. Yeah.
So like family invites you, like, hey dad, let's watch this film, and there you are with a red pen.
Yeah. Or I just it can be.
But I think then like you're probably the best person to ask for like movie recommendations.
Well, look, I could recommend. Sorry, I could recommend a movie based on whether it's well made, well produced.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you will
It's
enjoy
gonna
it.
be
The storyline.
Yeah.
That's true.
But I can say, look, this is a very well produced movie, but it might not be your kind of movie. So for example,
Subjective.
if you don't like horror movies, it can still be a well produced horror movie, but then you don't like it. You don't like
Yeah,
it.
no.
But just getting back to what you were saying, because you asked me about how I got into film.
Yeah.
So I did some movies, the music for some movies, and that was when I realized that obviously you get to see how the film's being made and the other departments and that, and then I actually started feeling like I want to be a producer of a film, not just the music, but the whole thing.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And so I began that process in 2018 of
So quite recently.
producing my own film. In terms of producing the whole thing, yes. So up until that point, I was just doing music and sound.
And the time like from the first animated movie that you made, so you
It was
like
about 9 years, I'd say.
so you were just composing
Yeah,
at that time.
that's right.
Okay.
Are there any like any stories of well-known people that you have, like during the time you were just before you got into making your own films, like during the time you were just composing music for other movies,
Like meeting well-known people.
either meeting them or um, some stories that you'd like to share,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
or whether maybe you
On
lost sound for a certain movie and it was a big thing.
on the first on that Zambezia film, it started off as a small film. It was just going to be South African, but then some American producers got involved, and then it became an international thing. And then they got American voice actors to act, and Samuel L. Jackson was one of them.
Oh wow.
It's an animation film.
Yeah, yeah.
The animation.
So he did the voice for one of the characters.
Wow.
And I didn't meet him, but he sent a voice message to us, to all of us that were working on the film, saying like, "Well done, you guys are great," and all that. So it was like, wow, this guy knows we exist.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can actually
So cool.
tell you that he worked for 3 hours. That's how long it took him to do his voice, and he got paid like more than 2 million rand for that.
Wow.
To put it into rand.
Yeah, he's a big brand. So.
For 3 hours of work, imagine.
Yeah.
Sheesh. And then when you think about it, it's like, because I wanted to ask you, you with us here today, and we are recording this whole thing, and I'm just like, it must feel so alien for you being on the other side, having been working like behind the scenes so much.
I prefer being behind the camera and behind the computer.
I think a lot of producers feel the same way.
I'm not an actor or naturally someone that's like to be upfront.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm not really aware of that. I mean, thanks for reminding me of the camera. But
Sorry.
at the moment, I just feel like we're chatting, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, like you mentioned, like how much they get paid, like the actors and that, and I'm just like, do you sometimes feel like there might be like a, what is the question I want to ask? It's like the people behind the scenes, or the payment gap between the people behind the scenes and the people in front of the camera. How's that situation? I don't know if you're getting what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, look, it changes from country to country. So American actors get paid a lot
for being behind the scenes.
Sorry, I thought you meant
actors.
So the actors get paid a lot for being in front of the camera.
Yeah. And the producers of the same films and movies?
Yeah, they don't get paid as much as the actors.
Yo.
But the reason is because the actor
is the face of
like
the movie.
The marketing of the film,
I suppose.
So like, if you know that Tom Cruise is in a movie, then you're going to go see it because.
Oh yeah.
So it's not. I don't think it's unfair. I think it's, it's not wrong.
It's just the fact of how things are.
It's just the way it is, and it seems unfair because, I mean, to get paid 2 million rand to speak for 3 hours, is, but he's earned it.
Yeah,
he's earned that place.
Definitely.
So what can you say? That's not to say that producers in America starve. They don't starve. They also get paid very well.
Yeah, and I'm asking because like maybe there might be someone out there who thinks I want to try producing. Like I think I want to do film production. How does that look if you want to be living, making a living out of that? And I'm obviously asking you because you've been in the field for a while, so you're the best person to ask about that.
Yeah, so it's a bit different here in South Africa. It's very, very hard to make a living with anything to do with art here.
Oh yes,
in South Africa and in Africa, for example, and that I've tried to think about why. Why is it so hard for artists? And when I say artists, I'm including filmmakers, musicians, painters, sculptors, like dancers, all people that are in the creative arts field.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard for them to make a living? There are so many talented people who are just not making money and are getting by on menial jobs. And for me, the conclusion I came to is that in countries where most of the population are struggling, and where there's poverty and where the priority is to eat.
Oh yeah.
No one's going to spend money on art.
Oh yeah,
They
yeah.
can't afford it. They would love to, but it's not a necessity, so they're not going to. So we, the artists, don't get paid because no one's giving money to. So films get pirated, they get copied and sent around. Music gets pirated and sent around.
Oh yeah.
So those artists don't make money from those things, but yet their art is still being enjoyed.
And and I think when you speak about that, I actually want you to come back to the pirating part of it, because I think coming from the country, or sort of country that you're describing, I think pirating has become so normal that it doesn't even feel wrong. So I want you to dive a bit more into that and like give us like the picture of what it actually does to the artist, or to the people
the
that
makers of
produce the makers.
Look, there's no difference between copying a movie
Yeah.
and giving it to someone, or downloading a movie from an illegal site. There's no difference between that and stealing from Checkers, shoplifting from Checkers. There's no
Sheesh.
difference between the two, because what are you doing? You are taking something that doesn't belong to you without paying for it.
That's serious, eh?
Yeah. So, and most people will be shocked to hear that, because
I'm
the
shocked.
people who are downloading films are not the kind of people that necessarily go and steal from Checkers.
Yeah,
And so if you
yeah.
tell them that they're equal to a shoplifter, they'll be upset with you. But what else is it?
But that's exactly what it is.
The film is, the way the filmmakers get paid is by selling the film. So if you are taking that film without paying for it and watching it and giving it to others, you are stopping them from buying the
From
film.
benefiting. And if you say download the movie from YouTube,
No,
or
look,
are there sites where the artist does get money from those downloads, or is it like everything?
like if you download from iTunes, that's fine,
Okay.
because you pay for it. But when you download from free sites, you're not paying for it. Then it's
Yeah,
pretty much-
that includes YouTube.
Yeah, but
Sheesh.
there's very few movies on YouTube though. People don't allow their movies on you.
Yeah.
There are some movies on YouTube, but then the filmmakers have allowed them to be on YouTube, and then they know that
Alright.
people are going to
Yeah.
download them.
And I'm thinking not just like the film now, like even music. Yeah.
Because that's where people make their living.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you think it's the technology that enables this type of thing? Because I'm trying to think, in the past, when CDs were not in existence, how was piracy back then?
No, well, you still had you had LPs, vinyl,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah?
you would record the
Cassettes
vinyl
also.
onto a cassette tape,
Oh,
and then you would pass that around.
that's music.
Yeah.
But movies?
Well, you had VHS
Oh yeah.
videotapes, and then if you had another VHS,
Yes,
you can record
yes.
from
You
one to
record.
the other.
Yeah, that's right.
But that
that's
was
right.
far less prevalent. I mean, it was hard to
Yeah.
it was hard to actually find people that did that.
Mm.
Now it's much easier, as you say, because
And, yeah, so
everyone's got the
instant.
internet. You can download at the click of a button.
Sure.
You've got WhatsApp where you can send people songs, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. However, the music industry, and to some extent the film industry, but the music industry has adapted. So, for example, if somebody releases a song, like a well-known artist, they put the song on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So you can watch it for free. You don't have to buy it. So
Right.
they know that. So they know that people are gonna just download it and watch it for free. So the way they make their money now is through concerts. So in fact, they don't mind if everyone has their song for free, because it's marketing for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then they know that they're going to have a concert, and then everyone's going to come to the concert. So that's the new emphasis now on money making in the music industry, is concerts. You've got streaming.
Yes.
You've got to have a lot of streams to make money out of streaming.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one sad reality.
Yeah. So people are not making money anymore from streaming. The big guys are not
Yeah.
making money. They make money from
The live shows.
concerts and also radio play. So as you know, you've got to pay a royalty fee on all the songs you play,
Yeah.
and then the artists get a share of that. So if their songs are played a lot on the radio, they get paid well for that. So those are the two areas now where artists make money, not from downloads anymore.
And films,
So films are a
cinemas.
bit different. So now you've also got streamers. You've got Netflix and
Yes.
Showmax and Disney Plus and Amazon and all that. And those companies will pay the filmmaker a certain amount of money
to play the movie.
to allow their movie to be on the platform for a certain amount of years. So, and that usually is quite a lot of money. So that's how they make their money, is from the streamers.
Okay, before we move back to 2018, I'm a bit touched by what you've just explained now with regards to piracy. And I'm just curious, or also I would like you to draw a picture to the audience and the viewers as to how long does it take to once the movie is shot and then you have to do the soundtrack, how long does that take? How long does that process take until the movie is ready? Once you create the sounds, I mean, for the movie.
Okay. It varies depending on the timeline. Some movies give you a lot of time to do it, and some movies give you like 6 weeks, you know. So it could be like 3 months, could be a few weeks. Yeah.
That long?
Yeah, I could say, look, the professionals and the Hollywood guys, they can pay others to help them.
Right.
There's big budgets, so then you can do it in a very short space of time, you know. So there's a very well-known composer called Hans Zimmer. I don't know if you've heard about him. He did the music for Pirates of the Caribbean. And a lot of big, The Lion King.
Yeah.
He did the music for Inception, a lot of big movies like that.
Yeah.
And he does like 10 to 15 movies a year. But he's got like an army of guys that are helping him to compose and to make it happen. You know, so he can do that. But if you're just one guy like me, then it could take a few months.
So,
Jeez. But then when the movie's done, then we get to enjoy all that hard work.
You do.
Yeah. So,
and I suppose like even he started like that probably.
Yeah, it's most likely.
Is it a like a career where you develop, the more movies you do, then obviously the bigger the staff that you have to work with?
Well, no, it all depends on the budget of the film.
Okay.
Yeah. So if the filmmakers have got a big budget for you, then that's great. If they don't, then you make do, and you can choose if you want to work with that small budget or not.
Yeah.
And most people say yes because they need the money.
And the experience sometimes, I suppose.
So you got into making your own films from 2018. So that means now the work became much more than what you were doing before.
Yeah.
And what's that like?
It's awesome and horrific at the same time.
Care to explain?
Yeah. So, I had to start by raising money because it's not easy to raise money for a film, and a film takes a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
As we've discussed. So, I had to beg, borrow, and steal. Not steal, but beg and borrow and get investors to give me money.
Yeah.
Which I did. And that was, like, once you've done that, that's a huge hurdle. Because if you've got money, then now you can actually make your film. You can pay people to make your film with you.
And pay for things like equipment.
You have to.
Yeah.
When you pay for the equipment, you pay for the guy that runs the equipment, the DOP, the director of photography,
Yes.
and all of his crew that he needs.
Right.
You pay the makeup person, you pay the costumes person.
Sure.
You pay the location fees, transport, food for everyone that works every day. You've got to cater for everyone.
Do you pay
Fuel
for
to run
permits?
the generator. Permits
Yeah.
if you need to, like if you're shooting in a public place, you need permits for that.
Right.
And the list, and that's just a fraction. The list goes on. You've got to pay directors, you've got to pay producers, you've got to pay
There's still the cast.
the actors, you've got to pay all the post-production, which is, so in a film, you've got 3 phases. You've got pre-production, production, and post-production.
Yeah.
Pre-production is when you're writing scripts, you're looking for locations to shoot, you're doing all the stuff that you are preparing for the actual day when you start rolling the camera. So that's everything that happens before that.
And you start spending money at that point.
Yeah, you've got to spend money to write scripts. You've got to spend money to
Move around.
to
And,
book locations, all
yeah.
that stuff. So that's before you've even started saying action on set. Then production is obviously the most costly part, where it just, the list goes on, and it always is more than you think. It's always
It's like trying to build a house.
balloons, yeah. And then after that, you've got post-production. So post-production, you have the editor, someone that has to put all the footage together, and that person gets paid a lot because they are basically taking everything and making it into an hour-and-a-half movie.
Yeah.
And they've normally got like 20 hours of footage that they've got to get through.
That's a lot of footage.
Then you've got to pay someone to do the Foley, someone to do the music.
Mm.
And another area that most people don't know about is color grading.
Yeah.
So when you watch a movie, you're not aware that that movie has been graded in a certain way in terms of the color to create a certain feel.
Really, like, is that like adding like a filter to the movie?
Adding filters or just accentuating certain colors or making certain things. Like if you're shooting a World War II movie, it's going to be very like depressing.
Black and whitey. Or
Yeah, almost black and white, or like just very muted colors.
Yeah.
And if you're shooting a scene like
like Barbie, like Barbie movie.
exactly, good example. Bright, in your face colors.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen. It happens when you're shooting. Obviously, the person that's doing the set design will design the colors. But then afterwards, someone's got to come and adjust those colors.
Yeah.
And also, if a camera is shooting from here and then another camera shooting from here, the two pictures are going to look different slightly because of the lighting. So you've got to make all the camera angles look the same.
Sure.
And you don't notice that because it's done well. But if it wasn't done well, you'd notice it.
You could you would be able to tell.
Yeah.
Like the show.
Exactly. So color graders get paid a lot as well. So it's a huge expense to make a film, and then once the film's made, now you've got to sell it.
Yo.
I mean, look, I'm talking about independent filmmakers now. If you're a studio, then you're already
established.
You're going to distribute your own film.
Yeah,
Like the big studios like Universal and that. But if you're just a independent guy who's made a film, then you've got to knock on doors like, anybody want to buy my film? And it's hard.
So you first knocked on doors for funding. Now you have to knock on doors again to sell this film.
Yes.
Yo.
Yeah,
So
that's a lot of work.
It's a bit scary.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had great investors, so they weren't breathing down my neck and making me feel like I owe them money or something because they invested on it. So they have to wait for the money to come back, which they've done, and they're great. They're all great people.
And like,
how long is that period? I'm curious.
Well, in this case, it's been a long time. It's been like 6 years.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or no, 5 years. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask like a bit more personal perspective on how it was, like on like the very first movie that you produced. Like how was that whole experience?
So it was very exciting, but so what happened was, so this is the movie that's on Showmax at the moment.
Yes, 1960. I've watched it, by the way.
Oh, have you?
Yes.
Okay. Did you like it?
Yes.
Good. You have to say that, I guess, because I'm sitting here.
I mean,
but
no, for real, I did like it though.
Did it get you emotional?
Yeah.
Because there are some scenes there that really get you, in your feels. Like,
I mean, like how it talks about apartheid. So I don't think it gets any more emotional than that. But yeah.
And best acting, in my opinion.
Very good acting.
Yeah.
I was very happy with my cast, my crew. We had a lovely bunch of people. So what happened was, I'm quite interested in that period of time, 1960, the 50s and 60s of South Africa. It was a very interesting time politically. And the music was transforming around that time. It was becoming
very meaningful also.
So I loved it, and I loved learning about it and reading about it and knowing exactly what happened when, and the timeline of when Nelson Mandela was arrested and all the different trials that he went through. It wasn't just Rivonia where he eventually got imprisoned. That he actually was having a treason trial before that with over 100 other defendants, and they were all acquitted, which I felt was quite interesting. Like a white judge actually acquitted them and found them not guilty. And so that all happened around 1960, and then of course the Sharpeville massacre happened in 1960 as well. So all of that really interested me, and I wanted to write a story that took place in that time, but I didn't want it to be about apartheid. So the movie is not about apartheid. it's about a young woman who is trying to become a singer, and obviously she comes across aspects of apartheid while she's doing that.
Yeah.
And it's actually a love story as well as a story about overcoming, and standing up for yourself. So anyway, so I wrote the story and I wrote the script, and then I raised the funding, and then I got a friend of mine, a DOP, a director of photography, to partner with me so that he could shoot all the scenes without me paying him.
So you've got to have connections.
Yeah, and then we would share the profits,
Yeah.
which is what we've done. So, and then we contacted the Cape Town Film Studios, on the N2 in Cape Town, where they are. So, when you go into Cape
Is there like
Town,
a sign with BE?
there's big ships on the N2, like big pirate ships. I'm sure
Yeah.
you've seen them as you're going into town.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's right there, and they've got amazing sets and things. So what happened was, the Long Walk to Freedom had been filmed there recently, and the whole of Soweto, like a whole block of Soweto, was built, like with streets and shacks and houses and everything.
That's always so interesting.
And that was still there, and they let us use it for our movie. So, so it looks just like Soweto in the 50s.
Yeah.
And it's in Cape Town.
Yeah, in the Cape Town Film Studio. Yeah. So
Sure.
look, it looks like any it could be any township. And our film was actually set in Sharpeville. So it was Sharpeville for us, but it was like streets and houses, and it was amazing, absolutely brilliant. So we used that, and then they gave us a very good price, because I was like, please, this is a independent movie, we don't have any money, let us use the set. He said, fine, you can use it. Didn't cost them anything. The set was already there. And then we shot for 5 days. But it wasn't supposed to be a film. It was actually going to be a TV series.
Oh.
So that was supposed to be the pilot for the TV series. And then I was going to use that pilot to raise money for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
See. But that never worked out. And then after 2 years of trying to do that, so we shot it. It was beautiful, but it was incomplete. It was just a first episode.
Yeah.
So then what we did was, my partner and I said, look, let's finish this. Let's make it into a movie. 2 years later, let's make it into a movie. 3 years later. So in 2021, we added another section to the movie to make it into a full feature. So I had to write the script again and finish it, because I actually wrote it open-ended, so that
so that you sort of like leave people in the cliffhanger so they come back.
It's got to be, it's got to go on. The story's got to go on. So then I had to finish the story. So that's how actually it ended up being a movie. And then
That's interesting.
So then I had to raise more money to do that new shoot.
Yeah, of course.
And then I don't even want to tell you, I don't know if I should get into it, but some of the shoot we did here, and then I was robbed at gunpoint.
Oh no.
When I was dropping some guys off in Ziyakhipha6to8. And,
that's sad.
and I lost my footage that I'd shot in
Shoot.
Commanders. Yeah. And then by God's grace and a lot of help from people, they know who they are, I got the footage back.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything
It required
intact.
it required a few phone calls to a guy in prison
That's our reality today in South Africa.
who had connections.
You've got to have
and
connections,
Yeah, and then he found the guys that stole it and got them to bring it back to me. Yeah.
Jeez.
So that was quite another whole movie to be made about that one day.
That is scary.
And then when that film was done, I presented it to a distributor, somebody in Joburg who actually sells films to Mnet and Netflix and whoever. And they took the film and they sold it to Mnet, which is why it's now on Showmax. Because Mnet is the same company as Showmax, DSTV and all that.
Yeah.
So it's being shown on DSTV throughout Africa, and it's been shown on Showmax.
How did that feel?
It was a relief, because I was able to, and look, I don't want to come across as bragging, but I was able to keep the costs.
Brag.
No. What I want to say is I was able to keep the costs very low,
Yeah.
so that the amount that they paid us was actually, we made a bit of a profit on it.
Yeah.
I was able to pay all the investors,
It's business.
Yeah.
and we made a profit, which is not easy to do. It's not easy to make a profit in a film in South Africa.
Sure.
Yeah. So that was a great blessing, and lots of lessons learned along the way. I feel a little bit PTSD about it because
No, I can
it was a lot of work.
I can imagine.
And especially towards the end, I was doing a lot of the stuff on my own, sitting in my studio editing all by myself, and
Yeah.
not knowing if it's good or not, like not having anyone to bounce it off, you know. And
Charlotte, you should see. You see, he makes it sound so easy.
I know.
He's got 3 screens. He's got 3 screens in that studio, and if you go and check, there's another film that I'm not sure if he's going to talk about it. The current one that he's working on. When you get into his studio, he's got 3 monitors, and there are these 2 monitors here where he's doing all the work. Then there's a third one that shows you a preview, of the final product, so to speak. And there are so many pieces on these 2 screens that you almost don't know what's going on. It's like pieces of rice, if I may put it that way.
If you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and all of this translates to what you'll see on the 3rd screen.
So, and I suppose because like you're taking like angles, like it's different scenes, right?
Yes.
Or it's different shots to make
different
maybe
shots,
like one scene.
The sounds.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. So for people who produce music, they may get an idea. The people who produce films will get an idea. But if you're sitting at home, just imagine two big screens, having all these pieces together, pictures, videos, and then sounds, and then you've got a third one that now shows you what all of that translates to.
You see, what you can do what I'm doing on a laptop just with one screen. But it just gets a bit cluttered. So if you've got more than one, it just helps you to spread things out.
Yes.
See things more.
It reminds me because like I work with computer programs such as like AutoCAD and Revit and all those, and it does help to have like multiple and to try and do everything all at once because also the programs are big.
Yes.
It's not like you're working with like.
And you got to keep on minimizing and swapping apps and all that.
Yeah. And what made you go like independent filmmaking? Like,
look. Independent is the only way to make films in South Africa. You're not, because what independent means is that you're not working for one of the big studios like Paramount or Universal, or whatever. So everybody else is independent.
And I suppose like if you want to work for like Paramount and all those other big companies, you probably have to have like a portfolio.
Yeah, and you got to. I mean, it's hard. It's a lot of competition. So it's really hard to get in there and do that.
Okay.
And also the decision-making process may not be the same. Yeah. I believe it may take longer to take certain decisions. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know much about how they work, but it's a very big machine.
Yeah.
And it's not really something that I am envious of, to be honest.
I'm just curious about one thing, and I wanted to let it go, but my mind doesn't want to. When you're talking about the fact that you took 2 years to shoot 1960, that 2 years later you had to it wasn't going to be a film, it was supposed to be a series, and then you had to change things around. I'm curious, when it takes so long to do something like that, aren't you worried that maybe the actors would not look the same?
I'm glad you asked that question because that's exactly what did happen.
Ooh.
But let me tell you our genius plan that we came up with.
Okay.
So not only the actors looking different, it was 3 years later. Okay, just 3 years because we shot the original amount.
3 years is a long time.
Yeah, so we shot the original in 2018.
Yeah.
And then we did the follow-up in 2021. So it was 3 years later. So what? And of course, lockdown happened between then, so people got fatter.
Sure.
True.
Yo.
True.
No,
some got thinner. True.
You're the exception.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, so what happened was, and also not only that, but the whole thing was set in 1960. So to try and recreate all of that again, exactly how it was, and have continuity where people wouldn't notice the difference, it's nearly impossible. In fact, the Soweto that I told you about was not there anymore by that time.
They've taken off the set.
They've taken down already. So the plan that I came up with was, and you've seen the movie, so you know, I decided to do, because that was set in 1960, so I decided to shoot the present day, and then to flash back to 1960.
Yes.
Yeah. So then that was done so that we could avoid continuity issues. So
that's
the
actually
actress,
smart.
so the actress,
Genius.
the main actress,
Yeah.
was now an old lady. So then she flashed back to the past, and then the story concluded in the present day, so that I could also find a way to finish the story.
So that wasn't like an initial idea. Like you had to add that on later.
Look, it was. I ultimately planned in the series for the last episode to be in the future.
Oh.
Where she's looking back. So it was kind of part of the plan, but then it just worked so well.
You had to like make it.
into a movie. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, guys.
Very interesting stuff.
It was an epic adventure, and
Yeah.
And also the difficulty of shooting or trying to create a film like around COVID.
yeah. So that was the year after. It was 2021, so that wasn't too bad anymore. But I'll tell you what was happening just as we started shooting. And the second part we shot in Joburg.
Yeah.
The riots were happening. You know,
What they call
Wait,
the
which
July
ones?
unrest.
July unrest.
Oh
I was shooting in July in 2021, so it was the July unrest happened in Joburg when I was there, and in Durban. So that affected some transporting and that kind of thing, and it was quite a hectic time. But yeah, we made it through, and here we are on this end.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it as a career path for someone?
For somebody who's got an iron constitution, yes,
And a passion for it.
yeah. No, look, I love what I do. The music, I still do the music side. I did the music for 1960 as well. I did the film score for it, so I still do that. I haven't stopped that just because I'm producing.
Yeah.
So I do music and I do film, and I love it. I really enjoy it. One of the things I really enjoy is working with different kinds of people. I really enjoy that. Yeah. So I'm working on a series at the moment, and I had a crew, like a bunch of actors in that year over Christmas, just after Christmas, and they just loved it. We're in Hermanus, we're filming.
So you filmed in Hermanus as well.
Yeah, I do a lot of filming here. It's easier because you know everybody, you know where everything is.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot of stuff for free. Yeah.
Okay. Working with different people. I mean, I've watched some behind the scenes of many movies, and you listen to stories about directors and filmmakers who would lose their temper during the shooting of a film. How do you manage to? Because I've never seen you angry. So how okay, don't do
How
it
dare
now.
you talk to me like that?
Do you have that challenge? That's what I meant.
I'm glad you also asked that question, because one of my values in life is to have peace and not have conflict in my immediate vicinity.
Yes.
So at home, I don't allow my family to have conflict. I mean, you can't avoid conflict in a family altogether, but I don't allow it to
manage
continue.
it.
Oh,
It's got to end very soon,
most
because
important.
that's not how
yeah.
God wants us to live.
Mm.
And in my workplace, I cannot have conflict. And when I'm working with people that are if I'm the boss and people are working for me, a lot of bosses don't actually understand this, but if their employees are not happy, they're not going to get the best out of
Oh
their
yeah.
employees,
No.
you know?
Yeah, a lot of bosses don't understand that.
I don't get
That's
how.
true.
Yeah. But
My employees must be there not for the money. They must be there because they love
being there.
They love working with me.
Yeah.
They love working with each other.
Yes.
And the money is like a bonus.
Oh
Yes.
yes.
And you'll
Yes.
see it in the performance.
You will, and you'll see it in the atmosphere when you walk on set.
Yeah.
And then what happens is, in a case like that, if I say to them, "Look, guys, I know it's 11 o'clock at night, but please, can we just do this one more scene? Because if we can finish it now, then tomorrow we can rest."
You're free.
Mm-hmm.
Then, if you've got a good rapport with your workers, then they'll be like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it. Let's do it." But if they're doing it for the money, then they'll be like, "Sorry,
Time gotta
time
go.
is up. I don't care. It's your problem if you're not
Yo,
finished."
that's
So I feel like it's a no-brainer. And why doesn't everyone operate like that? But that's the way I operate. And I'll always have a very happy, peaceful set.
And loyal people.
And loyal people. And if not, then I failed.
I'm curious to know, your inclination more towards like peace, does it have to do with anything from like your past? Would you say you had like a past that wasn't so restful that now you absolutely prize peace over everything? Or is it just you've just always been that person?
Well, look, as you mentioned in the start of this interview, that I'm a Christian. And one of God's main values is peace. He actually came to bring peace. And it might not happen immediately because this world is a messed up world, but most importantly, he came to bring peace between man and God. That's why Jesus died on the cross. That's what we believe as Christians, is that death on the cross brings peace between God and those who accept Jesus' death as on their behalf. So peace is an underlying value in my life and in my beliefs. But also it has practical consequences.
Applications.
No, consequences. It has practical benefits. Because as I just described, a set which is peaceful is going to produce better stuff. People are going to be happy and people are going to want to work with you again. Okay. I can't tell you how many times, almost every actor I've talked to, every person that works in the industry that I've talked to, has got a story to tell about a horrible producer or a horrible director that made their life a misery. And I'm sure you guys and anyone will know about people who've had a horrible boss, that every single day they've got to go to work and face this horrible person that hates them. And treats them like dirt all day long, all week long.
Oh, yes. Plenty of
Nobody
those
wants
stories.
that. And that, as soon as that person has another opportunity, they'll leave that person, you see. So it's just a much better and more fruitful way of operating in life.
You have the love for, I would call it giving back. I'm one of the beneficiaries, in quotation marks, of that, because you gave me an opportunity to work with you on some adverts. We shot some adverts for very prominent businesses here in Hermanus. And I'll never forget that experience where I got to learn a lot of stuff on the job. And like I said, these are serious clients, or these were serious clients of yours. And I would say you took that risk with people like me to say, let's go do this. And because of that, I know so much today. And I can mention other things, whether it's things like you having to help me with some software for certain projects and things like that. And I'm not the only one. I mean, where I come from in Zwelithle, there's a lot of people that you've worked with and groomed to become better in what they do, whether it's music or whether it's giving training and things like that. Where does that come from? What is it, or what is it about you that says this is necessary? I need to do this.
Or rather, what makes you want to do it?
What makes you want to do it? I'm not complaining. I just want to make that clear. And I'm not saying you should stop.
Look, I don't like talking about race because I feel like race has become an issue which is more divisive now than ever before. And however, you have to mention it sometimes, especially in the context of South Africa. And I grew up in apartheid, and during apartheid I had many, many advantages as a white person. I had a good education. I had the ability to start my own business, to have the equipment I needed to learn what I know now, those kind of things. The list can go on. And I've always felt, from when I was a young man, I've always felt the need to take that privilege that I've got and to do what I can to benefit some who did not have that privilege. And I got my motivation, I think, from my beliefs, from my Christianity. But I also love doing it, especially when it's someone like you, Daniel, because there are a lot of people like you who actually want to learn and have got the multiple gifts and talents, but might not have had the opportunity to exercise them or to develop them or to even know that you've got them. Some people have got talents they don't even know they've got.
Oh, yes.
True.
And how cool is it to be the one that discovers it, or to be the one that actually shows them.
Yeah.
And then to see the lights go on and to see somebody realizing that they have got what it takes to do something. I love that. It's not something that it's not a sacrifice for me. It's something that I enjoy and I look forward to. So, like, we did a student project. I think it was before your time. I did a film with some guys here that I was training at the Overstrand Training Institute, and we showed that film to all the parents and to all the friends. We had like a big evening where we showed the student film, and it was the most wonderful night I can remember here in the Manus. We just loved it. Everyone came, they were proud of it, they got awards, they got certificates. And some of those people have gone on to actually do productions. And so that's very, very satisfying, and it's a lovely thing. So I'll always have two facets: me producing and then me also teaching how to produce. And that's what I want. I want people to know how to produce. And look, I mean, I'm busy doing a series at the moment, which I'm hoping will be sold to one of the channels or one of the streamers. And Washington, Tony.
Shout out to Tony.
Shout out to Tony. He's shooting it for me, right? And I taught him how to shoot, so I'm actually reaping the benefit of that as well, of him, and he's growing more and learning more as we go. So, I also have a shout out to Joel.
Mr. J, we call him Mr. J. Yeah,
Mr. J.
Mr. Joel Martins. Yes,
I've taught him a few things, and he features in 1960 a lot. His voice is there, and he also acts a little bit.
Yeah.
And in almost all my projects, I have him singing somewhere because he's just a multi-talented individual.
Very.
And it gives me great pleasure to see people like that who are so talented, actually using their talents and being seen, in the world. So it's really I couldn't actually do without that. I would never want to live without doing that.
Yeah. And I know some people who tried to help others, and eventually they gave up because they felt that they were not there wasn't appreciation. Do you always receive appreciation for the work that you do, especially what we're talking about now?
Yeah, not from everybody.
Yeah, okay.
You always get those that disappear into the sunset, and you see them again. But there are always those who come back and say thank you, or who just, what happens to them afterwards is a thank you, or it's a reward for me.
Wow.
So there are those that don't, and I don't hold it against them. I'm sure that there are people that I owe a lot of thanks to that I haven't said. So I don't judge people for that.
And
oh yeah.
I don't say something from what you said as well. I suppose it also has to do with the reason why you're doing it in the first place. I suppose if you are doing it from a place of wanting to give back genuinely, then you don't really have that pressure of like expecting people to say thank you. Though it is nice, I suppose.
And also, I think you and I'm not sure in your case if this is exactly as it is. I've learned it in mine when I do small things that if you're doing it from a place of love, your thank you is when that person succeeds.
Oh yeah.
That you're like, you see, there.
Yeah.
It works.
And one of the purposes of education is not just so you can get a job. All right. So there are people that I've trained who didn't get a job in that field at all. But they are better people now because they were able to realize their own potential and what they could do and what's possible. And also, some people just need someone to kind of notice them, or
give them a nudge in the right direction.
And just say, look, I see you. You're good at this. You're a good guy, or you're talented in this area, and just to give them some time where they can see what's possible and be made to feel like they're a human. Because a lot of people, more than we think actually, are ignored. They don't have anyone that really encourages them. Yeah. So even if they didn't end up becoming a film producer or something, they are happy.
You take me back to a conversation we've had with one of our guests here, a young man by the name Nela. He goes by Nela Mgcina as an artist. Real name Nela Chambu. He's a social worker. He when we spoke of fathers, he explained that part of the reason why gangsters become so successful in influencing children is because in most cases some children needed that notice, somebody to notice them. They needed that love.
Yeah.
And I think from the way I see how you do things, that you are a role model and a father figure to a lot of young people, especially where I come from in Zwelishe. And for that, I would really like to say thank you for your existence on this planet. And it's thanks to your parents that they brought up someone, of this caliber.
Well, thanks for saying that, Daniel. It's so true what you're saying. So many of the problems in society would be solved if fathers were around for their kids.
Oh, yeah.
And in this day and age, and don't get me started on this because I'll talk for another 3 hours, but men are being belittled and sidelined in this day and age.
True.
They are being made like they're unnecessary.
Oh, yeah.
True.
And that masculinity is toxic.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And of course, there is a brand of masculinity that is toxic, but there's also a brand of femininity that's toxic.
True.
Anyone can be toxic.
Yeah.
But masculinity within itself is not toxic. It's necessary. It's a very huge part of society which is missing.
Oh, yeah.
From a lot of people. And exactly what you said, gangs are basically just families. Somebody who joins a gang is looking for a family.
Yeah.
And they're
Sense
looking for a father figure who's going to tell them what to do and what not to do, and what's right and what's wrong. And even though it's a twisted form of fatherhood, it fulfills a certain need within that person. And so that's why you have gangsters. And look at our communities that are falling apart with crime. In a family that has a strong, stable father, he's not going to allow his child to be out at night doing stuff, robbing people and breaking into cars and that.
No.
That kid will be home at 5 o'clock and be doing his homework.
Exactly.
But without a father, a mom, and there are incredible single moms out there, believe me. Some single moms deserve medals, but there's only so much a single mom can do, especially with a teenage boy who's getting stronger and bigger.
Yeah.
He needs a father.
Yes.
He needs someone to stamp the authority and say, no, this far and no further. And unfortunately, that's missing big time. And in our country, I think the statistic is 62% of children don't live with both their parents.
It's actually more common to find people without present fathers than to find people with present fathers.
And most of those 62% are living with their mothers.
Oh, yeah.
And the father is doing his thing.
Also,
and they might see him every now and then. Look, there are a lot of examples of a broken family, but the father's still involved. And he still visits the kid and raises the child with the mother, and that's fine. But those fathers who are out the picture, they really are causing huge trouble in society. And so I have found myself in that role with people. It just happens without even trying, because when you are an older man showing somebody how to do something, that is what happens. It's
psychologically, it just clicks.
It clicks.
Yeah.
And so,
and
luckily, I'm not paying child support to all of them.
True. And I just wanted to add that as much as there are many mothers out there who are doing a brilliant job in bringing up boys, but there's simply other issues that boys cannot discuss
with their moms.
with their mom.
Yeah.
Even if they try,
Yeah.
the mom may not get it the way that the father would.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, when you're raising boys, and I've got 2 boys, so I speak from experience, there has to be a little bit of fear.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about fear of being abused or being beaten or something, but there is a natural presence that comes with a man where you fear him, but you don't fear him in a way that you're scared of him. You fear him in the way that you know that he's good and kind and loving, but if you do the wrong thing, then he's going to be on you.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know?
Someone to answer to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like a relationship with God, in a
It's
sense.
exactly,
Yes.
it's exactly
Yes.
that. We fear
Yeah.
God. We know that God is loving and kind, and we know that He's there for us. But we also know that if we do the opposite of what He says, there's going to be a consequence.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And if we ultimately live our lives without Him, there's going to be an ultimate consequence where we're not going to be with Him in eternity. So there is that healthy fear of God, and that's what fathers, that's what boys need. They need a healthy fear of their dad. I had an excellent. Do we have time for a story? How are we doing for time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, we got plenty of time.
Okay, good. There's a lovely conversation I had with a friend of mine. He's an older guy, but he's, so his kids are about 10 years older than mine, but when they were children. His boy was having nightmares, and he couldn't sleep at night. Anyway, he went to a friend for a braai, and the friend was quite a strict father, and my friend was kind of like a more sort of
More
relaxed.
lenient.
Yeah, more lenient. And so they went to this friend's house, and the strict friend, said, "Look, guys, no swimming in the pool until 3 o'clock, because we've just eaten lunch now, so no swimming till 3." And then my friend's kid went and jumped in the pool.
Sure.
So the strict friend took my friend aside, and he said, "Look, your kid needs a spanking. He needs a hiding. He directly disobeyed an order from an adult."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, we don't really do that in our family. We don't really spank." And this is not a conversation advocating for spanking. It's more about disciplining, consequences, for. So the strict friend said, "Well, look, do you know why your kid is having nightmares? It's because you are too weak.
Sure.
So he said, in my family, I'm the scariest thing in my kid's life. Any monster has got to come through me before he gets to my kid. So my kid's happy. He goes to bed at night knowing that there's no monster because Dad's there."
Yeah.
See? But in my friend's life, that kid was scared because he didn't feel that his dad was strong enough to protect him. And
Sheesh.
it was because he wasn't showing his strength with his children.
Yeah.
He wasn't actually saying to the kid, "Stop that,"
That's such a difficult reality check.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my friend was the one telling me about it. So he changed from that. He started disciplining the child, and my nightmares went away.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a scary thing when a boy wakes up one morning and discovers he's the strongest one in the house.
Yeah.
He needs a
Yeah.
father.
Yeah.
A dad needs to be the strongest one in the house. So it affects everything. Yeah. We
Well,
digress.
we digress.
Hey.
And these are important societal issues.
Oh, yeah.
They
And
really are.
discussions to be
Yes.
had.
Very much so. Yeah.
You also did a bit of teaching overseas in South Africa. Do you want to just share a little bit there?
I started off as a teacher. So when I left school, I went to teachers college, and then I became a teacher for a few years. I taught here. I taught in America for a while. I taught in England, and that was it opened lovely doors for me to see the world.
How was your blood pressure?
Yeah, look, no, I'm fine with the kids. Hey? I've got no issues with the kids.
Okay.
It was the system that I didn't like, and especially teaching for South African government. It was a nightmare. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Very low pay, and also
Okay.
very long hours. And more than that, the admin. My word, there's so much admin for teachers.
Yeah.
You actually spend your time doing admin, not
That's
teaching.
true.
That's
My husband
true.
is a teacher, and
Takes
when
work
it's
home.
like almost end of the year, like that's the one thing that really gets to his head. He's like, if only I could just teach and leave, but
Yeah.
the admin is.
And you go home at night and you've got books to mark for the next
Oh,
day.
yeah.
So there's no.
Including preparing
There's
for
no
the
rest.
next lesson.
I mean, some people are called to that, and bless them. But
Yeah.
I love teaching, like I do with people now, but on my terms. I don't want to work for the government anymore. And just for example, like I remember in one job that I had, on a Tuesday afternoon, I had all my free periods for the week were back to back on Tuesday afternoon. So from like 12 o'clock on Tuesday, I didn't have any more classes.
Hmm.
Do you think I could go just to the shop to buy a cool drink? No. I couldn't even leave the school grounds.
So you were there.
Rules.
Yeah, you can't leave the premises.
No matter,
Yeah.
you don't have work to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then,
I had to fill in a pink form 3 days before to ask permission
Sheesh.
to leave the building.
so
To go
there's
get yourself some drink.
there's no work-life balance there. There's
Yeah.
just work.
Felt like
Yeah.
felt like I was one of the children, you know.
Sheesh.
Crazy. So no thanks. I don't think I can ever work for a boss again.
Shucks.
Yeah.
Well,
But I still love teaching, and the things I learned, the skills I learned from teaching, I'm now still using now when I teach others.
And also, like with people, I suppose you must have done a lot for people skills.
Yeah,
Because
I think so.
you're dealing with so many different personalities.
And confidence of leading a group of people, you know, being able to stand up and say this and this and this.
mm, okay. I sneaked into your studio the other day, so for the people who are going to watch the interview on YouTube later on, I'm going to show them your awards. I know how you feel about them. You don't like us talking about your accolades, but I feel that it's important that we mention that you've got so many awards that you've won in your career, and for me, I'd like to know, do you feel this way about, I mean, you don't like making a big deal out of these awards. Is it because you are just satisfied having done the work, or you feel that recognition doesn't do much? What is the reason behind that?
Well, let me think about how to answer this. I don't want to be fake, like falsely humble. It's great
Yeah.
getting an award. You feel so good when you get an award.
Okay.
But it's dangerous to kind of chase after that.
Mm.
So if your aim is to get an award, then you're going to be disappointed more often than not, because you don't get awards all the time.
Oh yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
And also, your validation shouldn't come from awards. It should come from your track record, or what you've done in your life, and what you need to validate yourself, or have those around you validating you. You don't need some award, and especially because I know how some awards are actually awarded. Like I've been on the committees of some awards.
Mm.
The Grammys lately.
It's not always that fair or that
Yeah.
objective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So look, I have a couple of awards, and I keep them in my studio.
Yeah.
And it's nice if you're working with a client for them to see, okay, I'm working with someone that knows what they're doing.
And that
All
they
right.
gain more
Yeah.
confidence
Yeah.
working with you.
But I don't keep them in my house where I show all my friends and my guests, because it's not about that.
That's home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I don't know if that answers your question. But that's
Yeah,
my
it
take.
does, and
Yeah.
I like how you've clarified. I like how you've clarified.
So I don't hate them, but they must be in their place. They have their place. It's not everything.
Yes.
An award is not everything. Yeah. Yeah.
I think because of time, we'll have to wrap up, and then we can always have, with your permission, we can always have a part 2
Sure.
at some point,
Mhm.
because I believe there's more that you are doing, and you talked about a new film that you are busy with. Are you going to share the name, or something about it, like the story, something that the audience might be interested in, or
All right. So it's a series.
yes,
It's a series of
Sorry,
6
a series,
episodes. Yeah. And it's called Screen Nation,
yes,
and it's social media based. So every story, every episode is told through the eyes of social media.
yes,
So
that's
so
the most
there's-
interesting part about
So
it.
it's like texting, video calls. It's all seen on the screen, and in
Yeah.
doing so, you build up a story. And every episode is a different story. So it's one episode doesn't lead on to the next. It's a complete story each episode. Yeah. And every episode has got to do with an issue in South Africa. So
Sheesh, we've got plenty of those.
Yeah.
we do have plenty. It's hard to choose. So I chose gender-based violence for one of them.
Okay.
And the one we've just finished now is about materialism and money.
Mm.
And I'm sure the next one is going to be about load shedding.
Load shedding will come into it, I'm sure.
Okay.
And another one would be bullying,
Ooh.
false prophets.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well,
and-
many
Yeah.
many churches.
Yes,
Got
Yeah.
so many churches in one street.
so many.
Yo.
And blatant charlatans,
Yeah.
people stealing money from the poor. So I have to do a movie about them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the plan is to have them on Showmax as well?
Whoever wants them, I think it's probably going to be, it's likely to either be SABC or ETV,
Okay.
and then maybe one of the streamers like Netflix.
Right.
Yeah.
In terms of the length that it takes, the process of getting it from your studio to the SABC.
Well, each episode takes about, I'd say, 5 weeks
Hmm.
to produce.
Just one single episode.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Most of that time is me editing, sitting behind them.
And it,
Yeah.
it is about what, 40 minutes long? 45?
It's 24 minutes
24 minutes long.
Yeah, that's like a
and then the
regular.
channel would put in ads in between.
to make it up to 30.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Shucks.
And like I've always wanted to know, when you are shooting like different episodes, or let's say I'm watching like I almost said the name of a soapy that I like to watch, but like how many episodes do you have to first shoot before you can release it?
So actually, I think it depends on, if it's a soapy, it's a different story. Okay, so
Oh.
soapies
It goes on forever.
are going on forever. So they just, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're 2 to 3 weeks behind. So if you,
Sure.
yeah, so they've got like 2 to 3 weeks of episodes ahead of them, and then they've got to keep up like that, I think.
Mm.
But when it comes to the kind of episode I'm doing, it's more, it's
Like a series.
yeah, and it's quite, and it's limited series, and it's not just people in a room talking like soap operas are. It's a lot of different,
A lot of
it's like a-
dialogue.
yeah, and a lot of settings and a lot of graphics that I'm doing. So that's why it takes so long.
Yeah, you should see it. You should see. Oh, Charlotte,
should.
very interesting. And thank you for allowing me to sneak in there
Anytime, Daniel.
and get
anytime.
and get to see it. Thank you so much for coming through. And thank you for sharing your wisdom and your story.
Yeah.
I believe a lot of people are inspired by your story, including the things that I've learned, some new stuff that I didn't know that I learned. So it had to take this show, Charlotte, for me to learn. To learn.
It's my pleasure. It was wonderful to be here with you guys.
Yeah.
I could chat to you all night. So sad that it's over, but
Yeah.
It always feels like 2 minutes.
We'll be back.
That's what we say.
Yes.
It's 2 hours, but it always feels like 2 minutes because like time moves by so fast.
Mr. Bruce Retief, the filmmaker and music producer, father and husband, as well as a Christian. Thank you so much for.
I think you should have
Coming.
started with a Christian
Oh,
because everything else comes from that.
it's very true.
Right?
okay. I'm sure I'll do better next time. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sringabhaya nabantu bonke who inspire sthatha amandla ku-interviews in pursuit of dreams and desires. Are you watching from ekhaya? Welcome. Sisi kumaphupho wakho wonke, don't retire. Nope. Bude emaphupheni wakho wonke, don't retire. Subscribe. Ziyakhipha6to8. Spetty content yakho is a date. Boza, are you relate? Subscribe. Ziyakhipha6to8. Spetty content yakho is a date. Boza, are you relate? Ulindebali. Subscribe.